Hi folks, it's Friday the 12th of February and as I speak we've vaccinated about 14 million people now across the whole of the UK. That's the first jab for 14 million people. It looks like we are on target. We very much hope to reach the JCVI, the most vulnerable groups, 1 to 4, by the 15th. And obviously there's a lot of work going on to make sure that we do that. And I want to thank again everybody involved, the vaccinators, the NHS staff, all the army personnel who are helping, the pharmacists, the volunteers, the council officials, many council workers doing fantastic work on the vaccine programme. Thank you all. We couldn't do it without you. I was up at Derby seeing the incredible work being done by the vaccination centre there, where they're really going gangbusters. I mean, shooting the lights out. I think they're ahead of target in terms of vaccinating the groups that they have to do. And people are working absolutely flat out in spite of the weather conditions. At the All Woodley Medical Centre in Leeds, they had to dig people out of a snowdrift, or dig the whole thing out of a snowdrift in order to keep going and do 1,200 vaccinations per day. That's the kind of dedication that we're seeing. Thanks to all of them. But I really want to thank all of you, everybody who's coming forward to get vaccinated. It's very important that you do so, but there are still a few people, still a million or more, who have not yet come forward to get your vaccinations in this group. Please do so. It's very easy. Just contact your GP, reply to the letter which you should have got by now, or just ring 119.
Peak we had back in April last year. We had about 18,000 people in the NHS. We currently, as of yesterday, have over 30,000 people in the NHS. And a week ago, all the 4 chief medical officers for England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland said this is going to be a significant crisis for the NHS unless we take evasive action. And this new variant is really pushing things in a way that the old variant, which was already very bad, was not able to. So we have a very significant problem. Here in London, for example, 1 in 30 people currently have this coronavirus, according to the Office for National Statistics. Across the country as a whole, it's 1 in 50. So this is a serious problem, and it's rising in every part of England. So what we need to do, because the next few weeks are going to be the worst weeks of this pandemic in terms of numbers into the NHS, what we need to do before the vaccines have had their effect, because it's going to take several weeks before that happens, is we need to really double down. This is everybody's problem. Any single unnecessary contact you have with someone is a potential link in a chain of transmission that will lead to a vulnerable.
We're going to bring you right up to date with our breaking story this hour, that announcement that trials carried out by the US pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and the German manufacturer BioNTech suggest they have created a coronavirus vaccine which is more than 90% effective. Our health correspondent Anna Collinson joins me now. Anna, we've been hearing from the CEO of Pfizer saying this is a great day for science and humanity and a significant step forward. It feels that way, is it?
Yes, definitely. It definitely feels like a huge milestone. You know, with these vaccines, they're one of the greatest tools that we have to get out of the lockdown restrictions that some of us are living in, the social distancing, not being able to see our loved ones. The vaccines are seen as a tool to help us get there. And this is a huge moment.
We have to stop the spread of COVID. To do this, we all need to work together. We need to limit our movements. We need to consider whenever we leave our house that anyone with us, anyone we come into contact with, could convey the virus. So whilst it is in human nature to engage in conversation with others, to be friendly, unfortunately, this is not the time to do that. So even if you run into your next door neighbour in the shopping centre, in the Coles, whilst you're at Coles, Woolworths or Aldi or any other grocery shop, don't start up a conversation. Now is the time for minimising your interactions with others. Even if you've got a mask, do not think that affords total protection. We want to be absolutely sure that as we go about our daily lives, we do not come into contact with anyone else that would pose a risk. Obviously, there are essential work. There is work, and I shouldn't use that term essential. I understand that work is essential to everyone, and probably we need a new word other than essential. But I think the community understands what we mean. We need to maintain our food services, logistics supply. We need hospitals and health services to be operating. But now is the time to really ensure that everyone complies with the spirit and intent. And the spirit and intent of the public health orders is to reduce mobility, reduce the opportunities for anyone to come into contact with anyone else. And so that responsibility is now firmly on workplaces to take those actions. And clearly we have seen the closure of a number of workplaces which facilitates that as well. And finally, another action I want to make it clear is permitted under these lockdown provisions is going out and getting a vaccine. You shouldn't go if you're a close contact or you've been designated as a casual contact, but please go and get vaccinated. There is access to vaccines, and the vaccines are incredibly effective at preventing hospitalisation and death, and they are the way out. And yes, we haven't got enough vaccine at the moment, but we have got some vaccine which is accessible, and I would urge everyone to go forward for your second dose of AstraZeneca, or also your first dose, or if you're eligible for Pfizer, to take up that opportunity. Thank you.
I also want to take a moment to address the current situation with COVID-19. This morning, Canadians woke up to very encouraging news from Pfizer and BioNTech about their vaccine candidate. Canada signed a deal with them in August to secure millions of doses. At the same time, we're also seeing other vaccine candidates progressing well. In Canada and around the world, scientists are working very hard and doing a great job. We hope to see vaccines landing in the early next year. But between now and then, it's really, really important that we double down on our efforts. We need to make sure we are controlling the spread of COVID-19 in the coming months, so that when vaccines get here, we will be able to act quickly to protect all Canadians. And to be very clear, if you catch COVID in the coming days and weeks, a vaccine won't help you or your family. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are hopeful we are getting there because our scientists are working incredibly hard. But we need to do our part. We need to stay strong and hang in there a few more months. Maybe more than that, but we can see it coming. So download the COVID Alert app. Keep your distances. Reduce your gatherings to essential members of your family. And follow local public health advice. That's how we'll get through this winter to a spring and a summer that will be much better.
Extra powers for work sites, but we keep getting told households the big problem. Are you going to be going suburb to suburb, street to street, door to door, knocking on these and actively looking for people who are in the wrong house and finding them on the spot?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Overnight we conducted hundreds of checks, particularly those who were close contacts or who have the virus. Thankfully, everyone was home as they were supposed to be on health advice. We'll continue to do that. We know home-to-home transmission is a huge issue for us. We know that people are bringing it home from work sites that aren't complying with health orders. So if you think about the powers that I've asked for, it will take it to those businesses that are breaching the health orders, and it will take it back to the homes that are continuing to breach the health orders that are putting us into an extended lockdown.
For breaking news, turn to Peter Overton, nightly at 6.
Mr. Ferguson Professor Ferguson is a very, very eminent and impressive scientist, and the science that he's done has been an important part of what we've listened to. But clearly, the social distancing rules are there for everyone, and they're incredibly important and they're deadly serious. And the reason is because they're the means by which we've managed to get control of this virus. It's a matter for the police. As a government minister, I'm not allowed to get involved in the operational decisions of police matters. even though I've got a clear answer to what I think, it's as a minister, the way we run the police is that they make decisions like this. But I think he took the right decision to resign.
Professor Ferguson has rightly now taken the decision he's did and said that there is no reason and he should have upheld and followed the rules on social distancing. The work of SAGE, our scientific advisory group, continues, and obviously we will continue to be informed by that group and the experts that provide that support to the government.
It's a very strange concept to have a Barbie doll created in my likeness. I hope it will be part of making it more normal for girls to think about careers in science. I think it's important to show girls and young women what options there are available to them, because if you don't know what there is out there, then it's not a career that you're going to take up. I've been designing vaccines for a while now. We had a large team of people all working flat out until we finally knew we had a vaccine that would protect people against coronavirus. For me, the benefits of a career in STEM is just continually being able to learn new things. It's a really interesting area to work in. You can learn about the way biology works, about the way the world works, and then use that to help people and protect their health. I think it is important to know that everybody can achieve what they want to in life. It's great to have a very diverse team. We need lots of different people working together to make a success, and that's what we had in our vaccine team last year. I know that my friends and family will be extremely amused to know that there's now a Barbie doll in my image. I think I'll probably keep it in my office at work, along with some other trophies from 2020 and 2021.
It is an ignorance of medical fact. And if you don't understand it, it's very easy to mistrust it. After all, you're dealing with something precious. You're dealing with your own body, your own life, and you wish to protect that. Quite right too. And if you don't understand what actually a vaccination does, and to some degree how it does it, then you'll say, keep off me. And if people who say that and then get the upper hand in trying to persuade people and frightening people who don't understand, then you're in a serious situation. But fortunately, it seems to me that more and more people are understanding what this is. And the majority, I'm sure, of the population understands perfectly well that this is a great triumph of medicine, that we understand the nature of these kind of diseases and how to guard against them by mobilizing nature's own protection.
You can all see the enthusiasm of millions of young people to get their jabs. We need even more young adults to receive a protection that is of immense benefit to your family and friends and to yourselves. And so I would remind everybody that some of life's most important pleasures and opportunities are likely to be increasingly dependent on vaccination. I should serve notice now that by the end of September, when all over 18s will have had their chance to be double jabbed, we're planning to make full vaccination the condition of entry to nightclubs and other venues where large crowds gather. Proof of a negative test will no longer be enough. We want people to be able to take back their freedoms as they can today. We want this country to be able to enjoy the fruits of our massive efforts and of our enormous vaccination campaign. But to do that, we must remain cautious and we must continue to get vaccinated. And that's why we're asking you to come forward and get your jabs.
To say that I am fuming about the actions of this individual is an absolute understatement. The selfish actions of this individual have put our whole state in a very difficult situation. One of the close contacts linked to the Woodville pizza bar deliberately misled our contact tracing team. Their story didn't add up. We pursued them. We now know that they lied. I stress this point that this is still a very dangerous cluster, and our health experts remain extremely concerned. We need to find and isolate a whole new group of associates. We are still urging South Australians to get tested. But just as we have acted immediately to put restrictions in place to keep South Australians safe,
the number of cases of coronavirus are rising. Yesterday, we saw 3,542 new cases, the highest since the 12th of April. The variant first identified in India, so-called B1617.2, is still spreading. And the latest estimates are that more than half, and potentially as many as 3/4 of all new cases are now of this variant. Now, as we set out our roadmap, we always expected cases to rise. We must remain vigilant. The aim, of course, is to break the link to hospitalizations and deaths so that cases alone no longer require stringent restrictions on people's lives. The critical thing to watch is the link from the number of cases
If you look at the 10 hottest years ever measured, they've all occurred in the last 14 years. And the hottest of all was 2005. The scientific consensus is that we are causing global warming. I am Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States of America. This is Patagonia, 75 years ago, and the same glacier today. This is Mount Kilimanjaro, 30 years ago, and last year. Within the decade, there will be no more snows of Kilimanjaro. This is really not a political issue so much as a moral issue. Temperature increases are taking place all over the world, and that's causing stronger storms.
This is the biggest crisis in the history of this country.
Early this morning, Hurricane Katrina slammed into New Orleans.
Is it possible that we should prepare against other threats besides terrorists?
From Paramount Classics comes a film that has shocked audiences everywhere they've seen it.
The Arctic is experiencing faster melting. If this were to go, sea level worldwide would go up 20 feet. This is what would happen in Florida. Around Shanghai, home to 40 million people. The area around Calcutta, 60 million. Here's Manhattan. The World Trade Center Memorial would be underwater. Think of the impact of a couple 100,000 refugees, and then imagine 100 million. We have to act together to solve this global crisis. Our ability to live is what is at stake. This is the year of climate. The Paris negotiation is crucial. In order to ensure its success, we need the political will. But political will is a renewable resource. And as part of the effort to renew that global political will, I am very excited, grateful to Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum that my colleagues and I in just a moment are able to announce here on this stage in Davos a major event this year. I want to invite the legendary artist, beloved creative artist Pharrell Williams, who is the creative director of Live Earth, to join me on stage with Kevin Wall, the co-founder of Live Earth and the one who makes it all happen. Please come on up. And the creative director is a man I'm proud to call a friend who I admire greatly, Pharrell Williams. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Al Gore. I'm opening this plenary to preview this outstanding panel that's going to come up here. I want to set the stage, if I could, to all of the distinguished guests. I don't have my distance glasses on, but Your Highness, Hilda Schwab. I want to thank Klaus Schwab for convening this plenary on this topic. And I want to note that this is the 4th year in a row that the World Economic Forum has named the climate crisis as the #1 threat to the global economy. I want to turn directly to the subject of our planet, because you are a very skilled observer, and over a lifetime, over all this time, you have watched this climate crisis and the crisis in humanity's relationship to nature develop. What have you learned? How serious is this? And I heard your talk last night, and I thought it was very eloquent, but how serious is this in your view?
I can't imagine anything more serious.
Yeah.
I really can't. And the trouble is that change is accelerating, isn't it not?
Yeah.
That things are getting worse faster than they were.
Yeah.
But the maddening thing is that we now know how to deal with it.
I think you could probably put them in the same basket. What greater threat to our well-being is there than the current threat of climate change?
Yeah.
Standing here in the English countryside, it may not seem obvious, but we are facing a man-made disaster on a global scale. In the 20 years since I first started talking about the impact of climate change on our world, conditions have changed far faster than I ever imagined.
We still have time to turn everything around, to pull the emergency brake and to take action. But that short period of time isn't going to last for long.
There's a message for all of us in the voices of these young people. It is, after all, their generation who will inherit this dangerous legacy. We now stand at a unique point in our planet's history, one where we must all share responsibility, both for our present well-being and for the future of life on Earth. Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. Within the next decade or so, we are going to pass a number of tipping points, beyond which it's going to be very difficult to recover.
Reckless burning of fossil fuels, the destruction of the forests, pollution of the ocean. How is it possible that the most intellectual being that ever walked the planet is destroying its only home?
Since the 1970s, we lost 60% of vertebrate species. If we look at insects, we lost 80%. As we lose species, what we also lose is the capacity of the natural systems to really provide the services that allow us to function.
One of the consequences of living in great cities, in great masses, is that we are cut off from that natural world. If you lose that sense of wonder, you've lost one of the most important things in your life.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I'm 60 years old. I come from Sweden, and I want you to panic. I want you to act as if the house was on fire. Our house is on fire. According to the IPCC, we are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes. Yes, we are failing, but there is still time to turn everything around. We can still fix this. Solving the climate crisis is the greatest and most complex challenge that Homo sapiens have ever faced. The main solution, however, is so simple that even a small child can understand it. We have to stop the emissions of greenhouse gases. And either we do that or we don't. Either we prevent a 1.5 degree of warming or we don't. Either we avoid setting off that irreversible chain reaction beyond human control or we don't. Either we choose to go on as a civilization or we don't. Adults keep saying we owe it to the young people to give them hope. But I don't want your hope. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. And then I want you to act. I want you to act as if you would in a crisis. I want you to act as if the house was on fire. Because it is.
Chris, you're live.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. All right, here we go. Sheep Farm Raw. We're live. We haven't done this for a while, have we? It's been months.
Yeah, planned it about 2 hours ago.
We planned it about 2 hours ago, yeah. So it's going to go rat shit. Well, we might as well bring Matt in straight away, haven't we? We'll give him a brief introduction. Hi, Matt.
Hey, guys.
You're right.
Hello, Mr. Landman. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Yeah, nice to see you guys. Everybody doing good?
All good here, mate. All good here. Yeah. Well, as good as you can in this tyrannical lunatic asylum.
Indeed.
Just give you a brief info. And I'm sure everybody knows who you are, but filmmaker, director, 2017 film Frankenskies, soon to be Frankenskies 2, I hope, because I hope that algorithm, A Convenient Lie, gave you some inspiration for a new movie.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Who put that together? All that?
Me.
Nice, lovely.
Yeah, I did. That was a presentation I did about 2 years ago, actually, on Al Gore's background. He did his all his background and stuff like that. It was quite interesting to dig around, looking at them. I mean, you come from a total technical. This is what's happening. I like digging into the business background and genealogy and stuff like that, because that links it all together, then, doesn't it?
Surely does. Indeed.
Can everybody? I hope everyone can hear us all right here. It sounds clear to me, anyway. We might as well start off with a bit of an introduction. Matt, where can people contact you if they want to get hold of you?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for hearing about me and the stuff and the world we live in and geoengineering. This all impacts everyone, climate change and all that. So me, Frankenskies is my my baby 2017 film documentary. So frankenskies@gmail.com is a great way to contact me. Also frankenskies.com, where the movie lives. That's a great way to see the movie. It's also on BitChute and Rumble and all that. I had a channel on the bigger platforms, but no more. It's all gone. After the lockdowns, stuff happened. But what are you gonna do? And also I have an EMF clothing line, so please find me there as well. SPERO, it's a Latin word for hope. Spiro Gear on Instagram, spirogear.com. Come check it out. Got a lot of stuff going on over there. Even blue light glasses now. Excited about that. Excited about a lot of stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
to be here.
I think it is a time to look at what's happening and we try and not get too. It's easy to, when you're researching what we are and the guys in the who are listening and watching, it's easy to get deep down and it piss you off and make you angry. But if you stand back a little bit, it is quite an interesting time to be alive.
Well, indeed. And me being the geoengineering, anti-geoengineering, anti-chemtrail, pro-truth activist that I am, I never really wanted them to come out and normalize chemtrails and say, you're welcome, we're doing this, and get everyone on board. I never really wanted that to happen, because then it's harder to fight something that every sheep person out there is like, oh no, it's good, I read it on the news, it's actually a good thing. When you're waking them up to like, no, it's real, and you're mind controlled, and this is something that's happening. It's a big kick in the face when people actually come to terms with it and wake up. That's like a big rabbit hole. It's a big deal. The truth is a big deal. But when the truth is right in their face and they think that their tax money is going towards it and it's good because of global warming and all that, that's going to be a much bigger uphill battle. So I've been a chemtrail activist for about a decade, devoted my life to it. I never thought it would ever come to mainstream. Ever. I never thought it would ever come to mainstream. I thought it would be this chemtrails is a dirty word, geoengineering is a fancy word, and they're doing solar radiation management. They're doing all these things, behind the scenes. They're doing these things, but I never thought it would come into the mainstream media. We've got new clouds, and we should do geoengineering. We've got this solution, and now they're hammering it home to the point where they just did an experiment outside of San Francisco. You guys,
I've got that video. You sent me that video last night. I downloaded it. We'll play it in a minute, and then we'll have a conversation about it. Yeah,
that's important. So just to break it down, and then I'll get off the mic for a second. So there's been this timeline of normalization. So I've got this little document here. This is just from 2013. Okay. And it's called a Civil Society Meeting on Geoengineering. So in 2013, and even before, they were doing these annual meetings, these civil society actors. And what they are what a civil society actor is, are participants in the main world, not government, but maybe they're government agents, working in the world, like as broadcasters, meteorologists, whatnot. But they come together in a meeting to figure out how they're going to introduce geoengineering to the public. And this is all on their website. And in their 2013 meeting, they said, okay, well, society is lousy at strategy, but we're not. We can figure out how to run circles around society and get them thinking the way we want them to think. So they said in their little notes of their meeting, I downloaded it. It's on my website. It's ridiculous. 2013 Consortium DC annual meeting. They said, well, let's introduce geoengineering as a horrible idea first. And then once the conversation is started, then we can slowly say, maybe it's a good idea. And then we'll scare them into it because they're going to think it's their only option because of their dirty carbon emissions. So over the duration of my 10 years as an anti-chemtrail activist, I've witnessed the craziest normalization agenda. So first, the news started saying that they might spray sulfur. And then, they run that through the media and they're like, actually, it's going to create acid rain. It's just like a volcano, Mount Pinatubo eruption, whatever, make the temperature on Earth go down. But we're going to have to kill some people with acid rain and stuff. So it's like this horrible idea, right? But they introduced, we're going to spray sulfur. Then they slowly say, we're going to do diamond dust and it's going to be coming out of your pocket, your taxpayer money. But then You know, our minds are like, what? Diamonds?
Diamond dust.
Right? So it's too expensive, right? Then they said they're going to spray mirrors, but the mirrors won't stick. And it's like, this is like years of propaganda, years of all the news agencies saying, what? They might spray mirrors because of your emissions, you know, carbon. And then finally they started talking about spraying salt. And then that's what they evidently did, is they did this experiment of spraying salt. Whereas the whole time they're blasting aluminum, you know, and I want to talk about that and Alzheimer's and dementia and the rates of why it's so much more prevalent over there. It's interesting. And I want to talk about Scotland, and because I just did a protest over there and I'm doing another one coming up. So there's a lot to talk about. And I also want to talk about this nonsense bollocks in the state, in the U.S. states, this nonsense in the states where they're banning chemtrails from different states. I know people are really excited about this, but states cannot ban chemtrails, if you know the real story. But so that's something to talk about, the psychology of that, because that gets people really sitting on their asses and being like, no, they're banning. I'm just going to move to that state. Like, first of all, they can't. They're not gonna. It's going to continue going on. Nothing's, you know, it's just psychological mind control, just like everything else. But there's a lot. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, if the state banned it, they're not going to. They can't ban the sky, can they? It's a federal area anyway. It's just impossible.
It'll
Isn't it?
drift everywhere and poison everything anyway, won't it?
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to ban something that no one's admitting that they're actually doing? So what are you banning? Like it's just words on paper, and it gets the entirety of the world like thinking that something's been done so they don't have to do anything. It's just like, it's very mental. It's like, I've talked about this before. I like to be the evil boogeyman, you know, with Bill Gates, his little assistant, at these like, you know, think tanks. And it's like, we got a timeline here, Agenda 2030. We're going to totally launch chemtrails and tell them you're welcome. But between now and then, we got to get the population totally pinned up against each other, thinking conspiracy theorists are crazy, while they're like, I mean, like, get this, you guys, there's geoengineering degrees. So people are going to school and dropping all this money and getting a degree in it. They walk outside and there's all these lines in the sky and they don't question that that's exactly what they're majoring in.
Yeah.
It's like, are you for real? Like that one right there.
Hey, do you know what, Matt? I was thinking yesterday. I don't know if you remember this. Well, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I remember being a kid and like lying in the grass, you know, messing around. And I remember it being a really rare sight to see anything coming out the back of an airplane. Mm-hmm. And I remember someone telling me, or a teacher telling me or something, that it was when they were at a certain height, the liquid had come off the back and that caused a slight fume off the back of the plane. And that was the only time. And I remember me and my mates looking up, and every now and again you'd see one. Every now and again. Not like now when you see them zigzagging across the sky. But then, obviously, flash forward, then we all start ranting about them. But everyone just denied that they even existed, even though you can visibly see them straight in front of you.
Well, the engines have changed since we grew up. They've been slowly getting better, and now they're not blasting heat. I liken it to just having like a propeller. You know, propeller spins, creates lift over the wing. These high bypass turbofan engines on these huge, you know, planes, they're spinning these turbines, and those are creating lift over the wings, just like a propeller would do. There's not like some heat blasting like a jet, you know, like an F-16 fighter jet and all that nonsense. Oh, by the way, welcome to World War III. Are you all getting hammered with propaganda over there?
Yeah, geez.
Ridiculous. Like, I can't even blink. I can't even blink without being told that.
Do you know something that really worries me at the moment is is it right if the Temple Rock goes down in Israel, then the Israelis get to build their temple, which is another sign of the beginning of end times, isn't it?
It seems like it's all been planned.
And it seems
out.
For the first time in God knows how long, it seems like it's possible that Muslim temple that's there now, the Temple Rock, could go down, doesn't it? Because they're getting bombed by whoever, Iran or themselves or England or America.
It's all planned. Did you do a breakdown of because I know you guys like breaking things down, and you know, what is it? March 22nd is the Freemason holiday. Is that right?
I don't know. Is it?
It's the 22nd. So March 22nd is always some BS psyop, false flag thing. And this year, nothing happened in the States. And I was like, oh, cool, sweet. I figured something might. But then later on, a little bit later, I read that there was this concert hall attack in Russia. And there's all this nonsense around it, actually, and they're blaming us. Really, it wasn't the Islamic State, but we're like, no, we warned you, we told you, we had intel, we knew that it was going to happen. But it's all, and then now recruits are up because Putin wasn't getting, and this is all from my side, because I bet I get different propaganda than you guys too. It's even, it's really interesting. Like it's out of control. It's interesting. I went to Europe and the UK and here in the States, and one thing that I did see across the board is everybody's protesting this war. Everybody. Across the board, every single person, every
while the TV still tries to sell it to you.
Yeah, while the TV's like, nobody cares.
all we're doing is going in and tickling people. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. So today the Golden Gate Bridge is shut down. Golden Gate Bridge completely shut down. I don't know if you know about this. And these are people that are anti the war with Iran because it's on now. It's like happening pretty much, and people know it. And so the protesters have like shut down the bridge, and they're like, no more innocent deaths. And the news is like anti-Semites shut down the bridge. It's like because they're anti-Israel, So it's just like they spin the media, and then most people only see the headline, and it's like it is 1984 misinformation. I mean, it is wild what's going on right now.
Yeah, it is.
We're all over the place. I'd love to get back to net zero and the utilised. I got to witness some of this in Glasgow and Edinburgh. We can just, you guys. I went over to Scotland.
Like good Scottish accent,
I look so stupid over there with my American accent. Like just saying the name of the town, Edinburgh. I'm like, it's spelled Edinburgh. Edinburgh. So I look like a total idiot. Just trying.
Americans always call it Edinburgh.
Yeah, Edinburgh. Yeah, I know that.
Edinburgh.
But it's funny, the further you get away from England, the less I can understand a single word's coming out of their mouth. It's really funny. I love it.
It gets worse the further north you get.
Yeah.
How did the presentation go down in Scotland? Was it a presentation or you were there for a demo?
Yeah, you guys, it was great. So there's this anti-geoengineering Scotland group. They're on Facebook as well, and there's never been a anti-chemtrails rally in Scotland. There's always been like something else, and then there's some people there maybe with some information, but never a rally just for that. And so they put together in the capital city of Edinburgh. We did it, and it was amazing. Dude, they had rain for like 15 straight weeks, and it was forecast rain, and we were all like praying to the whatever deity we could come up with. Like, you got a cloud god? Yeah, your cloud god, pray to it. So and it was dumping the day before and the day before and the day before, and it opened up, and people came. It was like 100 people came, and it was beautiful. We got blue skies, and then they chemtrailed like crazy it was a 3-hour-long protest, and right in the middle of it they chemtrailed. It was absolutely perfect. And I'll have it all up and send you guys the video soon. We had about 8 or 10 speakers with musicians and poets, and I gave the speech that I'm working on doing again because I'm going back May 25th to Glasgow, which is a cool city, by the way, Glasgow. And I'll be giving my speech again. And there's another protest there, and they just had a protest over a few days ago against the WHO in Glasgow, and there's some activism. I guess there's like some laws came out in the UK anti-protesting because anything can be like.
Well, there's some major laws come out in Scotland about online harms and all sorts of stuff. That
basically just taking more freedom of speech away, basically. Right?
Yeah, if we had it in the first place.
Yeah, right. But it went great. It went great. I got to meet a lot of amazing people. I felt like a total celebrity. Like it was so amazing. People that care about chemtrails. And what was great is people don't so much care as much in the States, it seems. But there's still some people opening their minds, and with a lot of new people to it, waking up, and children. And so it's very uplifting and inspirational. And go Scotland. And I'm looking forward to going back in about a month and a half to give the speech again. I'm like narrowing down this speech about how it's like, we're united under this boot because, F the man kind of thing. But, it's important that we talk about these things. And yeah, it's something else. It's wild with all of this going on over there with the ULEZ and Khan. I don't know if that's how you say his name, probably. and net zero. The net zero is just absurdity the way it's going, because simultaneously, I know I said I'd pass the mic, but let me just say this one thing: simultaneously dimming your sun with chemtrails, and then literally saying get solar panels. That's just taking the piss. Is that how you say it? Taking the piss? Is that how you say it? Taking the piss?
Yeah.
Taking the piss, yeah. Well, there were an article, Matt, I didn't actually save the image of the article, but they've realised that the speed cameras aren't working because the solar panel speed cameras in Scotland, they're not working because there's no
It's not the
sun.
best idea, is it? Solar panel in Scotland.
A few people have mentioned in the chat, and I'm going to mention it earlier, that Dubai's been getting some floods. I remember going there recently, and in 2019 before all this shit started, and they were in the Dubai news, in the newspaper that they put in the hotel room, that they were doing geoengineering. I distinctly remember it were Japanese. There was Japanese scientists are spraying the air. They were actually showing it, and there's videos online as well showing it. So I mean, these things happen, and it might be a good time now to play that video. I've got 2 or 3 videos lined up to play, and I'll play this video, and then we'll have a chinwag about it afterwards. I have edited it down because it were 8 minutes, so I've taken it down to about 3 minutes.
We'll be having our coffee before the session, and you raised the coffee example. I'd love just to give you the chance to expand on that.
Basically, the coffee that we all drink.
We'll be having our coffee before the session, and
sorry, I've got the wrong video there, but I'm going to play that one after. Apologies for that. Useless bugger. I think this is it.
Unbeknownst to most people, including the people who are actually living in the area, scientists have begun to conduct a secret experiment which involves shooting aerosols up into the sky in the hope of preventing global warming. Specifically, this is a solar geoengineering experiment right outside of San Francisco that's trying to create brighter clouds that would, in theory at least, reflect more sunlight away from the Earth. Here's how the experiment was described 4 days ago in the pages of Scientific American. Quote, "The nation's first outdoor test to limit global warming by increasing cloud cover launched Tuesday from the deck of a decommissioned aircraft carrier in the San Francisco Bay. The experiment, which organizers did not widely announce to avoid public backlash, marks the acceleration of a contentious field of research known as solar radiation modification. The concept involves shooting substances such as aerosols into the sky to reflect sunlight away from the Earth." Now, it really is worth highlighting that this plan was not kept secret by accident. It wasn't that people just did not notice the flyers, or they didn't hear the public service announcements or the social media posts. Instead, the researchers behind this experiment were intentionally keeping the local public in the dark in order to stave off criticism. And the reason we know this is because these researchers, they gave the New York Times exclusive access to cover the initial firing of the spray cannons from the ship. And in their report, here's what the New York Times wrote, quote, "The idea of interfering with nature is so contentious that organizers of Tuesday's test kept the details tightly held, concerned that critics would try to stop them. Nothing breeds public confidence more than changing the weather without telling anyone." Regardless, to give you a bit of the specifics, this plan of theirs involves spraying trillions of microscopic salt particles up into the air in an attempt to make clouds more dense. This will, at least in theory, reflect more of the sun's light away from the Earth. Quote, "The Coastal Atmospheric Aerosol Research and Engagement, or CARE project, is using specially built sprayers to shoot trillions of sea salt particles into the sky in an effort to increase the density and reflective capacity of marine clouds." Now, this secretive experiment is being led by researchers affiliated with the University of Washington, and the official name for this project, as was mentioned in this article right here, is the Coastal Atmospheric Aerosol Research and Engagement Project, otherwise known as CARE. And
Sounds
so,
trustworthy.
with this compassionate sounding name, alongside the fact that these researchers didn't bother to announce their plan to the public in order to avoid backlash, well, I'm sure that there's nothing to worry about. Although it is really worth mentioning that even among the scientists who think that this is a good idea, there is no consensus that changing the weather like this will not have unintended consequences. Quote, solar radiation modification is controversial because widespread use of technologies like marine cloud brightening could alter weather patterns in unclear ways and potentially limit the productivity of fisheries and farms. It could also lead to a catastrophic spike in global temperatures if major geoengineering activities were discontinued before greenhouse gases decrease to manageable levels. And by the way, it's worth mentioning that this plan did not come out of nowhere. For many years, Bill Gates, through his foundation, has been funding this type of research.
There we go.
I don't remember any time when we've messed around with nature that it works out better.
No, I mean, the whole, I mean, that's firm evidence of what Matt's been talking about for the last however many years, decade or whatever. But there's so much evidence that, like Matt said, you can even do a university degree in it now. Someone at the end of my road, their daughter has done a university degree in the global climate, boiling, warming, bollocks change nonsense. That's,
well, I told you, my missus
I think that's what the degree's called, actually.
My missus is doing a course, and they've got to do sustainability course on top of it. It's an art course, but she's got to do this bullshit course about sustainability. It's got nothing to do with her art course. But if you imagine, I mean, my missus is obviously an older student, but they're doing that to every kid who goes to every university and every college. They've got to do this sustainability or whatever other bullshit. I mean, that's it's full on proper programming.
At the beginning of that video, when Greta Thunderbird were on, they're saying we want you to be frightened. I mean, that's just straight out of MK Ultra, psychological trauma based handbook, isn't it?
Yeah, that was absurd. What I want to know is what's next after this experiment, right? So they've done one, and it's now official. Oh, so back in 2018, there was to be an experiment like this in Tucson, Arizona, in the desert, and we had a big protest. It was through Bill Gates, not through the government, and it was supposed to be out of balloons and experimenting with using aluminum. So I think they're slowed down now because we put the hiatus on that through different environmentalist groups involved and whatnot. I want to be able to set the record straight that I can say aluminum.
Aluminum.
I just say aluminum, so everyone knows where I'm from. I'm just kidding. It is kind of a mind F if you try to juggle those two words back and forth. But no, I think it's all of that you're saying about the sustainability and getting it ingrained in the educational systems and the media and everything. It's because we're going to end up with some sort of system based on that, like a social credit system, probably this World War III thing that's going to erupt. Something will happen where the dollar is super hyper inflated or deflated or whatever, and then because
food
of
shortages, etc.
Like oil is going to go through the roof, of course, and they're going to drag it out, and petrodollar is probably going to fall apart. And I mean, it's all been planned, all of it. And so then we end up with a different society based on like a different sort of currency, which is all planned. And it's going to be more, how much carbon did this take? How much did this banana take to get here from, Costa Rica or whatever, something like that. And things are going to change. But they're just slowly setting us up for that, slowly. And that's what all that sustainability nonsense is. Oh, man, you guys got to see this. So I'm so glad I remember this. You're going to love it. I should have sent you a screenshot. So I get my ticket. It's like 900 quid. To go from the West Coast to Glasgow, right?
It's called Glasgow.
Oh, yeah.
Glasgow. Yeah.
Okay, Glasgow.
Like it's got an eye on the end. Glasgow. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. So then I buy my ticket and let's see. Let me get this straight. Okay, first of all, when I'm searching for tickets, each one has a carbon footprint. Each one has like how much CO2 you use, and each one is like if you do it this way, then it's less CO2. Each one has like a number associated with it, and then even in the right there in the fine print, not in the fine print, it's like right there, it says that condensation trails from airplanes lead to global warming, And the shorter your flights, the better, because you're impacting global warming, which is slightly true because they spray the crap out of the skies with the planes and make global warming with chemtrails. And they're like basically truth hidden in plain sight, which is absurd. So then you guys are going to love this. You guys are going to absolutely love this. So like 2 days before my flight, I've bought the plane ticket. I've done everything. It's expensive, you know. I get an email from the airline. I think it's KLM. You guys have them over there, right? They're really big airline.
Dutch airline, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, KLM. And they say, hello, Matt. We strive to be green and sustainable. And we want to give you 3 options. No pressure. You're not obligated to do this. But here are your 3 choices. You can pay $250, $600, or this is more than the cost of my ticket, $1,100. So my ticket was like 800, 900 quid, and this was like 1,000 quid. It's like more than the cost of my ticket. And there's 3 tiers: to replace my ticket's jet fuel, my seat. They're going to change out my seat's jet fuel for a more sustainable green jet fuel. No joke. So I give them this money, and they claim that they make my impact on the world less.
Do you feel better for it?
Do I feel bad I didn't?
No, do you feel... Dude, listen to this one. I was talking to an architect.
Amazing, isn't it? You can solve it all by money. Amazing.
I'm talking to an architect the other day, and because of all this biodiversity, sustainability nonsense, he was saying that if somebody puts planning in now, they've got to have a sustainability section and fill this nonsense out in this section. And let's just say you're building a few houses, and you can't plant some shrubs or bushes because there isn't any room, or trees and that. There's people now buying land, green fields, and you can now offset what you can't do on your development and put it in this field. So you can put some shrubs and some bushes in this field.
Oh, God. What are they going to do with all the cash they get? They're going to spray that out back of maybe spray that out back of an airplane as well.
Yeah.
That'll block the sun out. Pound notes.
Yeah.
Pound coin.
Yeah, and this person just said
Insane,
airplane
huh?
fuel, what a hoax. I want to chime in on this airplane jet fuel, what a hoax. I just flew 5,000 miles, and being that I'm a anti-chemtrail activist, you know, please, people, check out the movie Frankenskies. If you haven't seen it, watch the first 15 minutes. It's very educational. It's good enough to share with your friends, family, grandmother, and whatnot. It goes through the historical chronological timeline of how we got to where we're at, weather engineering, weather modification. It starts in the 1920s, and I'm working on a sequel as well. So the jet fuel thing, which I'm going to try to unravel in the sequel, it's not what they say. Okay, so here's what happened. 9/11 programmed all of us. We heard the word jet fuel hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I lived in the DC area at the time. My girlfriend lived in New York, right next to those buildings. I couldn't get a hold of her all day long. The lines were all tied up. And I watched as people jumped out of the buildings to their death live on TV. Before the buildings had fallen, people were jumping out of the windows because the jet fuel was burning so hot, they said. They're like, jet fuel burns so hot that people got to jump to their deaths. And I was like, I literally cried. I was like, this is traumatizing. I got traumatized. I got completely traumatized while they said the word jet fuel 100,000 times. I heard it on the news. I heard it you couldn't turn your head without hearing the word jet fuel, right? Because it melted steel beams. It took down the whole empire.
Yeah.
States, right? So when we look, and this is like 1990s when the chemtrails really picked up, and this is 2001, right? So it's like right when they're really amping up this program. So then any of us that look at the sky, we see those lines, we're like, yeah, man, jet fuel's hot. It burns hot. Like it took down the American empire. It's in our heads. It's like literally we got trauma-based, mind controlled so much. Even if we snapped out of it, it's like still we were there during that. Like I cried. You know, it's really deep and important. So now people think that the planes are just full of all this jet fuel. They can't even fit where they claim. Like I looked at the wings now, the wings now are so thin. There's no jet fuel in those thin wings. It's just mechanics. So where's all this jet fuel going that they claim? And it's not blasting that heat like they claim the whole time. There's some jet fuel used to take off and land. But aside from that, there's batteries. So I watched as they came out to charge the batteries of the planes with these big battery charger things, but nobody came out and fueled up anything. The whole time I watched planes. I had like a 20-hour layover in Amsterdam. I watched planes. Never saw anybody get fueled up with jet fuel. So this whole idea of there's all this hot jet fuel, and that's why all these lines in the sky, and if you're higher up, then there's gonna be lines, all that stuff is just that's old news, man. Like the engines are really efficient, the jet fuel's not up in the planes like they think. They're charging you all this money for tickets. It's like, yeah, it's absurd. So
Have you had an infiltrator, Chris?
Yeah, Charles just walked in. Say hello.
Hey, love.
You should be in bed. Live on YouTube.
She's not like a mum. A mum would run off.
Yeah. I don't know. She's in the kitchen.
Yeah, so I lined up this other video as well to play, which is some sort of ground sourced. I sent it you yesterday. I don't know if you watched it, Matt. Some sort of ground sourced cloud seeding technology, and yeah.
We're here in Santa Barbara County, home to one of the longest running cloud seeding operations in the country. We've got some ground-based cloud seeding equipment right here, and we're going to get to hear all about how it works and see it in action. Let's check it out. Cloud seeding is the most common type of weather modification, and it has many different techniques and applications. Today, it's mostly used to increase rain and snowfall, reduce the size of hail, and reduce fog at airports.
Traditionally, cloud seeding has been done from the air. So airplanes have had racks on them where these same flares are positioned on the airplane, and the airplane flies into the storm. So in order to reduce the cost to the client and reduce our carbon footprint, we've been able to station these on the ground. Now we can do this in places where weather permits.
Behind a barbed wire fence designed to keep away curious cattle, the cloud seeding gear awaits the right kind of weather.
So these are referred to as AHOGs. That stands for Automated High Output Ground Seeding Systems. We've got three primary components of our equipment here. The first is the control module that you see behind me. Then we have our actual cloud seeding flares. The cameras for security. It also helps us observe weather conditions in real time and make sure that all of the equipment is operating correctly during a storm. Inside these canisters are the flares with the seeding agents. The canisters are used as spark arresters, so they prevent sparks from reaching the ground. So if we pull off the spark arrestor, you can see the flare inside. The ignition of the flares are controlled from the control module that's behind us. So the white triangle there is a cell service modem, and then the solar panel keeps us powered. Inside we have a battery and then a control board. So the control board interacts with the software. We're linked or synced with the software in Utah currently, and that allows us to fire or ignite any of the flares from that remote location.
Because of the lack of clouds and proper wind conditions, today is not a good day for cloud seeding at all. But Garrett and his team are going to light a flare for us anyway, so we can show you how it works. There's just one small problem. The battery in the control module died shortly before we arrived, but it's nothing a little jump start can't fix. After a little juice from Garrett's truck, it's time to set off the flare.
The primary seeding agent in this is silver iodide. Silver iodide is a simple compound. It's polar in nature like water, so there's chemical properties that help attract water molecules to silver iodide. It's also structured molecularly similar to ice. So it helps generate or helps spawn the generation of ice buildup, and then that becomes a hailstone or a snowflake that falls here primarily as rain. So one flare like this has billions and billions of potential sites for that water to congregate around. We'll launch them in sequences. We watch the radar to see when bands of the highest concentration of liquid water are passing above us in the clouds, and we try to target those high concentration pockets in the storm systems. We'll launch between 3 and 20 flares for a typical storm. Once the flare is lit, it takes a little bit of time to carry up into the clouds, and once it's up at the proper elevation, it'll take about 20 minutes to instigate the rain or the snow process. So overall, you're probably looking at about 40 to 45 minutes before you're seeing the maximum result.
It's just conspiracy nonsense. That never happened.
No, it never happened. That.
Someone in the chat asked about the pilots, and then someone else said that a chemtrail pilot was being interviewed. And I just wanted to say that if, like, after we went after the Persian Gulf and all of this investment in war regarding Iraq and Afghanistan, all this stuff, drones are cranked out like every few minutes. Like they're making drones all day long, these expensive drones, and the aerosols are compressed into canisters, and they can load them on. I mean, okay, so we go back to the Iraq War. All right. Maybe this is even Persian Gulf. Sorry. So Kuwait got invaded by Saddam Hussein, and then they outfit drones. The U.S. military, the U.S. Air Force, outfit drones and sprayed barium on the enemy and tracked them with the radar. You can track barium walking around. So they got the barium inside the people and tracked them. This is like public knowledge now. So, and then in that, they had drones and canisters of compressed barium, and that's one of the primary constituents in the chemtrails. So by now, they've got so many different drones. Where I live, it's all drones. In the Europe, it's drones, but also they've got those compressed canisters on those Ryanair flights. Why y'all think those flights are so cheap? Come on. I mean, it's because they're getting paid to have those canisters on them too, and they're fired remotely. Most of the pilots don't know. They don't know. So people are like, how could the pilots? Where are the pilots? It's because it's primarily drones, and then the airline that do fill in the gaps, they don't know. They're on a need to know basis, and nobody needs to know because it's outsourced and la-ti-da and all that stuff. I can't believe that through Greta and Al Gore, two people, but if you think about psychological mind control and all the demographics that they can hit, like some young girl and some like middle-aged douchebag, between the two of them, they were able, and everyone felt bad for him. And I think this is all psychological mind. I was thinking about it. If they plan things the way that they do, they planned it out so that we would think that Gore should have won the election. Oh, poor Gore, he should have won the election. Bush stole Florida. Like, I went to Ukraine after that election, and like people that didn't even speak English were like, Bush stole Florida. I'm like, fair enough. Bush stole Florida, but I'm not. It's like that's what they see.
But also, you'd never heard of Al Gore, and then that happened, and then he went on to make an Oscar-winning documentary. Inconvenient Truth. None of it came true, but then he managed to make a sequel somehow.
And the funny
an Oscar-winning documentary.
Yeah, he won an Oscar, didn't it? Yeah, won Oscars, I think.
And he funds all these green initiatives, green everything. He's like the pocketbook for getting all these things.
He's got a net worth of $330 million, all out of carbon credits.
Nothing he said came true, but he gets to make a sequel, and now he's saying the seas are boiling. So everything comes out of that guy's mouth's a lie. It was him who said the sea were boiling, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. That's hence why I keep saying global climate boiling change now.
Oh, you guys want to hear something funny? And totally off topic. So people are leaving California because it's a mess, right? And like you can get more bang for your buck somewhere else in the States. And so now California is putting in a exit tax. So if you want to move out of the state of California, they're gonna tax your ass and put a big fine up because people are bailing. Like California's kind of falling apart. It's pretty sad. Yeah, but I mean for good reason, like the politics and everything is completely nonsense. Yeah. So I know there's an election coming up in London. Is that right?
I don't even
Apparently,
know.
I don't take any notice. Well, it's sometime this year, I think, or within the next year. I don't really take any notice of politics because it's just bollocks.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, obviously, but is there any way that Khan's not going to get back in?
Oh, that's Scotland, and it's going to be Rishi Sunak v Keir Starmer, the Labour guy. Yeah, that's British politics. Khan's a London mayor. He's the guy that's yeah.
I always think of Khan.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
He seems to be the one pushing the utilised the most, as well.
There's a few going on though. They're going to trial it in Oxford city centre.
But obviously, London were a test run as well, wasn't it? For all that crap, and then pan it out over the rest of the country.
I mean, you Les, I don't know anybody who I've heard say, "Oh, that's a fucking fantastic idea." I don't know anybody unless they've got pink hair, who's actually said that. You know, even people where my younger's playing football, I hear them talking just normal NPCs, and you know, even they're questioning things now. They don't quite know what they're questioning yet, but they are questioning things, saying, "Well, Keir Starmer's not going to do anything any different to Rishi Sunak," you know, and so they are questioning. I've never heard that type of talk before.
Well, good for them. That's
Yeah, good
great.
for them. Now, whether it stretches or not to fuck the politicians, I don't know, but yeah, it's. But a lot of people in business as well are saying the same thing. That were traditionally, that I knew, voted for one or the other. That, you know, they're now saying I'm never going to vote again. But yeah,
someone said in the chat earlier, are they getting the atmosphere ready for them? I thought that was quite an interesting comment. Is that like a reverse version of Total Recall or Alien, where they're changing the atmosphere so that humans can breathe it? They're changing it so these
demons
can
breathe
crawl out from under the ground and walk more freely on the earth.
That's a question people ask questions. That's one of the questions that I get, right? I'd be shocked if I could get a question that I haven't been asked. The answer to that question is really deep, right? Because I think the end goal is transhumanism.
Yeah.
So the end goal is transhumanism, and what is that? That's like singularity, and everybody's got this stupid consciousness that's all together. It's like, and then we don't die because we're part robot. But that would mean like we're pretty metallic from the inside out, and that this like 5G, 10G, whatever thing is like everything's instant, like the singularity consciousness. So I stub my toe, and everyone's like, shite.
Yeah.
Did they feel it in their toe too?
Especially like Bogs, like Bogs out of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Borg. Yeah. So that's like the end goal. And then like these, like this Satan and whatever can get a body because there's transfer of consciousness, and it's all this like ridiculousness. So and then the air being more metallic makes these things, everything more conductive, and makes this like instantaneous, because they want everything dialed in so that it's just like instant, like AI and everything can just be instant on everything, and having a more metallic air and then like elevated by all this frequencies and towers and everything around. I think it's more like for the robots and less for the aliens, but kind of, because it's more like interdimensional. It's like the aliens are demons and they want bodies, and they need robots to be able to prevail around here, and therefore they need a more metallic sky. And if they can get the sky more metallic, the air around us more metallic, then they can control the frequency around us, because that's the goal, to keep us in a limited bandwidth, to prevent some sort of like evolution of humanity or whatever, to kind of lock us into a low vibration where they can control us forever. I mean, it's not going to work, right? But that's the goal. So in a sense, yes, but I don't think it's like a terraforming so that the reptiles can come out of their holes necessarily. I think it's more a little interdimensional and stuff like that, like spiritual and stuff.
Yeah,
is my answer to that.
But the transhumanism, I mean, is real, even down to everyday items. That video I'm going to play it now, actually. But that video I was going to play earlier, where the guy is a banker called Hubert Keller, a Swiss banker, talking at the World Economic Forum about coffee and how much carbon it uses. So let's have a listen.
We'll be having our coffee before the session, and you raised the coffee example. I'd love just to give you the chance to expand on that.
Basically, the coffee that we all drink emits between 15 and 20 tons of CO2 per ton of coffee. So we should all know that this is, every time we drink coffee, we are basically putting CO2 into the atmosphere. One of the reasons is because most of the coffee plantation, or most of the coffee, is produced through monoculture, and monoculture is also affected by climate change. The quality of these nature assets is deteriorating quite rapidly.
So even something that's been used by many people for generations is now going to be tracked, traced. That they're saying that obviously coffee produces 10 times more carbon or whatever while it's growing, but these are plants. This is carbon dioxide that plants give off. It's not exhaust fumes we're talking about here. So he's actually even counting how many fumes he's going to charge. They're going to charge people for how many fumes. And we've heard the same thing about water, haven't we? Nestle did the same thing about water as well. That they don't want it to be an essential product. They want it to be a product that they can sell. And to farm water.
Do you remember that article earlier in the year, Fi, where he had a picture of a woman digging in an allotment, and he said, "An allotment uses more carbon or whatever. You're better off getting it from conventional means, i.e., a supermarket. So growing your own vegetables is worse than buying it from a supermarket."
Well, just by saying cow shit and cow farts cause too much carbon, for argument's sake, CO2.
These people are insane.
So you can't even put it on your land now. So the old traditional way was that you grew something, you had a cow, used the manure, that grew better plants and refed the soil. And it was just a cycle.
Almost like a beautiful natural cycle.
That's the real sustainability. That's the real regenerative agriculture, is getting your livestock involved, right?
Yes. Yeah. Hence why it's called livestock.
These people are insane, aren't they? They're trying to strip everything natural and human in the world. And
sorry, plant, not CO2, but plants
methane.
Need oxygen. Plants give off oxygen, and we give off CO2. But what I'm trying to say is, though, that it's a system. You know, plants. Why does it cost?
It's a perfect system, Fi.
It's a perfect system. Yeah, it's a perfect system.
Until we interfere with anything.
Not only that, what they're trying to do is bore us into submission by picking on little things that mean nothing. You know, there's just no meaning behind it. Like, I saw something the other day in a magazine about picking plastic up from a beach, and the beach had no plastic on it. The picture they showed weren't stacked with bottles or anything. The picture they showed was just pebbles.
It's microplastic.
20 people, but microplastic. You can't even see the fucking thing. Right, so they're telling you about these microplastics.
Like certain diseases we know.
yeah, exactly. But in fairness, oil is part of the earth, isn't it? Yeah. So plastic is from oil. So oil is part of the earth. So oil's going to show up everywhere, or the chemical's going to show up everywhere. If you go into the sea, it's going to show up in the sea, isn't it? So is that microplastic, or is it just normal seawater?
Should have had that George Carlin clip lined up for.
Yeah, should have done. Really. Should we change tact anyway and talk about films a little bit? Yeah.
Something really quick about those cows and people that were talking about cow farts.
Oh yeah, I've got that written down. Oh no, sorry.
Cow farts.
I'm sorry about.
Yeah, people don't even know what they're talking about. They have no clue. So, grass going through its life cycle, it will, when it dies at the end of the year, it will emit methane gas. It's just part of its life cycle, and it's all in balance. I mean, there's not too much methane causing all these problems like they claim. If you look at the scenario that's geoengineering, those are the real problems, right? And so they're trying to tell us it's something else. But literally, cows have all these stomachs where the majority of the gas that comes out of them, the methane, it's coming out of their mouth. So that's really cow burps that we're worried about. And had they not eaten the grass, the methane would still be released anyways. So it's like now we're attacking Mother Nature and grass in general. And it's like we don't even know what we're pointing the finger at. It's just these fear mongers through just Greta and Al Gore. They've been able to get and the controlled media. I mean, you know what I mean? Like all that money involved. But what were you going to say, Chris?
Oh, no, sorry, Matt. I was going to say it was ages ago. Someone was mentioning the red heifers in Israel as well.
Oh, yeah, that looks like something as well. It's all lining up. It's absurdity. It's absurd. It looks like that we're going into like another drawn out scenario where everything's just going to get inflated by the war. And I bet you that this war is going to get dragged out for as long as humanly possible. And it's going to impact everything that we do. And, you know, everything's going to try to become more isolationist. And then it's just silly. It's just all absurd. But yeah, those red heifer cows that came from Texas, they had to get
that. Yeah, I remember them.
They had to get the embryos, and then you can't even look at them funny for 5 years, and it's absurd. It's just stupid.
I'll just fill anyone in if anyone doesn't know that story. So they're supposed to is it 5 of them? They're supposed to slaughter, looking over the Temple Mount when they build the new Israeli temple after the Temple Rock's been destroyed. Well, it would have to be destroyed to build the new temple. The Muslim one have to be destroyed to build a new one. But I actually saw that picture of that. They've actually built the ramp, haven't they? The scaffolding to take these red heifers up that they brought over from Texas in 2022, and then they're gonna sacrifice them on the top of it, looking over the Temple Mount. I mean, these people are mad, aren't they? They're absolutely insane.
They wanted to bring them over from Texas, but then they were worried that they wouldn't be kosher because it'd have to be a bumpy ride and someone might like give them a dirty look, So they got the They got the embryos from Texas.
All right.
And they escorted the embryos over to Israel, and then they made sure that they had a perfect upbringing because they have to be absolutely pristine to be sacrificed, to be
unblemished,
like scripture or whatever. Yeah,
But
unblemished.
also the guy, I saw an article a while ago that they found the guy, possibly a guy who can sacrifice him because he's not allowed to have been in a hospital, touched a dead body, and all other kinds of stuff. And they found this guy who could possibly be a candidate to do this. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, these people are insane,
Bonkers,
aren't
isn't it?
they?
Absolutely
They're insane.
bonkers. Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said earlier, he's at least interesting.
Oh, and really quick, back to the farmers and all this stuff. So we're being attacked for having a cow, right? I mean, which is just a sustainable way of living. Like you said, the manure goes into this and goes into that. And farmers around the world are protesting, and the cows are getting more headline and attention than factories like spewing crap into the atmosphere. What about these big businesses that has huge coal burning power plants, like big emitting things, industrial, the industrial economy that we live in is not even being talked about, but our food sources are being attacked, and they're like, no, we're going to replace your protein with bugs because that's better. And everyone's like, oh yeah, whatever you say, Greta. It's absolutely insane. Like the one thing that's keeping us alive, food, farming, agriculture, it's like under direct attack. And I don't know about food prices over there, but like Canada, for instance,
Go through the roof here. Yeah.
Double in price in 1 year for a steak.
Yeah. Well, what they've done here, it's been non-stop rain, as you alluded to in Scotland. But since the wettest drought since records began 2 years ago in Britain, I did look up when records began. It was in the mid-1800s, funnily enough, Matt. That's when they started recording when weather was. Which very convenient, I suppose, as Al Gore's film says. But it's been pissing down ever since here. And now they're saying on the headlines, farmers say there's going to be a food shortage.
Yep. Oh, and before we go on
the
the
next
topic,
now. It's been too
I want
wet.
to ask you guys a question. Why is dementia the leading killer in the UK?
Well, do you know the strange... I'm sorry, I'm going to jump to one side a minute. The strange thing is before 2020, before the bullshit started, I used to send emails out to people saying dementia is going to be the biggest killer. And it's coming from all different angles why it's causing it, from arm spears, probably. Any sort of toxin that's in there that invades the brain can cause all this. Might be the EMFs, might be spraying, water, fluoride, all of the above, isn't it? Really, you can't disclude anything. And now all of a sudden, it's just, it's like everybody gets to 50 and it's just normal to get dementia.
Yep.
Or Alzheimer's.
The UK Dementia Alzheimer's Association or whatever.
Roof, man.
They said that 1 in 2 people will be directly impacted.
It's through the roof.
But
it's like ADHD as well. ADHD, but again, we know, again, the parameters, if they say, if you score 50 20 years ago, that meant you had this particular illness. But once they widen that parameter and say, right, if you score 25 now, you've got it, they can alter that gauge any way they want, can't they? To say more or less people are getting it as well. So there is that to throw into the mix. But over here, there seems to be a spate now of famous celebs saying they've got ADHD. Yeah, or autism.
Yeah, well, that spectrum of autism is all over the place too. It's like just the definition changes so fast. I just can't believe that in the United States we're inundated by toxins, and I looked it up, and it's not the #1 killer at all. Like in Scotland, every month, roughly 600 Scots die each month in Scotland from dementia and Alzheimer's. And like, how do people die of this? Like, okay, so you get forgetful and your brain stops working, then you just become a vegetable.
It disintegrates you. Yeah, it just disintegrates you.
It's horrible. So
yeah.
let's talk about solutions. There's ways to get aluminum out of your brain and to detox these things. They have a shot for it. Big Pharma came out with a shot. I highly not recommend that. But there's horsetail.
Thanks, Dr. Matt. We won't take that prescription. Thank you.
Horsetail is all silica. Silica helps pull the stuff out. There's different things you can find to get to mitigate, to be a healthier human. Get the fluoride out of your life, you know.
Yes.
Don't have the deodorant with the aluminum. There's all these sort of things to not make you a statistic, right?
Don't make it too easy for these mofos.
Yes, spirulina, chlorella, zeolite. There's so many different things. If you got mercury in your teeth, these are, I mean, there's the combination. It's a combo thing. They want you to get the fluoride and then get the aluminum from this and then all these combos end up in your brain, toxic soup. So it's important to take your health in your own hands. So many people say, well, I feel fine. It's like, you don't know that this is okay, here's the deal. This
it's a cumulative event, isn't it? That's a cumulative
bioaccumulation. Yeah, the tuna feels perfectly fine and it eats the little anchovy and then slowly it builds up the mercury toxicity, and then one day that tuna doesn't know how to get back home. I just made that up. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's mercury in the tuna over a slow bioaccumulation because it eats the small fish. It doesn't just one day have. It doesn't just start off with mercury in the body. It's one day it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it shows the impacts. Just like in our world, we're not going to see it until we're older, and then it's too late. So it's important to live a happy, healthy life and detox these things, mineralize, learn about all these things, learn about them. All of them.
Always haunts me, you know.
Yeah,
always haunts me that I remember years ago hearing that they describe, I think dementia or Alzheimer's, one or the other, as like plaque on the brain. And then if you've ever distilled water and you see that chalky gunk, I don't know, you can't help think that, and they're telling you to drink 2 or 3 litres of water.
Most things that cause that type of illness, it's from a calcification point of view. Calcification are from chemicals, what Matt's talking about there. Certain things can decrease calcification, like high doses of vitamin C, especially IV vitamin C, and other stuff that Matt was talking about, spirulina, things like that. Some great herbs out there. And also infrared saunas, they're fantastic at doing things like that. There's a whole heap, and it's finding your own thing that helps you. But certainly control the controllables. The diet is key. Diet is key. What you're putting into yourself, the known knowns, as Mr. Rumsfeld said, who introduced aspartame to us and put holes in people's brains. But there you go. But yeah, let's do a swift turn for the next part. Something came across mine and Chris's radar for a little bit of research I was doing for a talk I'm doing on Saturday. If I just dig it out here. In fact, I'm going to play. Have you seen this, Matt? This talk, this podcast by Jim Brewer, and it was on the Roseanne Barr podcast. I don't know if you've seen it. Very enlightening on Hollywood. It was a recent one from last week as well. And Jim Brewer was one of the guys he got sort of sidelined, didn't he, by mainstream, because he was talking out about the wokeism, talking out about 2020 and jabs and all this other stuff. And I think Roseanne Barr was sidelined at one point for talking out about MK Ultra, wasn't she, in the 2000s, I do believe. She was put in a loony bin for a while. But they were having a conversation. I'll try and find this video first before I go on to this film. Just get us into Hollywood, if I can find it. Very, very interesting conversation. Have you ever played this for you, Chris?
I've seen it. Yeah. I saw it on Ed's Out Alive.
Ah, right, yeah.
I learned something a long time ago, which really blew my first real introduction to show business, which was the greatest. It really was. It was the greatest. It was a all black show, and it was filmed in Harlem. It was called the Uptown Comedy Club. It was two guys. But I thought this is the way Hollywood was. These two guys, it was Kevin Brown and Andre Brown. They would sit us all down, and they would talk like morals, spiritual, looking after each other. And I thought that was like, I fucking love show business. And I won't say which one, but I remember first hearing from a couple people there, hey, did you, we went to Hollywood and did you know so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so? They were chicken hawking. I said, what the, what? They all laughed and I didn't know what chicken hawking was.
What is that?
That is
Young
when,
boys.
and they dress them up like girls. Right, so transvestites.
Hoochie boys.
Correct. And the three big names, they're big names. And one is still out there and he owns, because he's worth $1 billion. He owns teams and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize 2 years, I'm like, oh shit. And then another guy started telling me about Puff Daddy and J-Lo. He's like, J-Lo's gay. And this one's gay. And he's like the gay mafia. And this is all just a thing. And then you got to go to, I was like, you guys are, what are you talking about? And they're like, this is the way you get it shit. And you got to do this. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? And that was my first introduction. I didn't believe any of it because it's too shocking. It's too shocking because we grew up with the persona of, and it's not just show business.
It's everything.
It's everything. And me and Chappelle at that time were very close, and me and him would talk shit for hours. And I thought he was way, way too far into it, but what he was saying was right on target too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he left for a while, didn't he?
He's deep.
Yeah. At least that's what I was.
Well,
that's true, but
I'll put something out there that I don't know if we were filming a movie and he also had a lot of pressure from HBO and or not HBO, Comedy Central and all this shit, right?
The worst bunch of people on earth.
Horrid. He then, while he was on the show, when it was blowing up, and we remember the Aspen Comedy Festival? I don't know.
Yeah, that was fun. I did that too.
He came there and he was freaked out.
Yeah.
I said, what's going on? And all I could say is he was visited.
Yeah. That's what I think too.
And when he told me who visited him, my heart stops for a second. I'm like, get the fuck. And I'll never forget, he went, you believe me, right? You believe me, Jim, right? And I could, he's like, they came to me. And he said the names. I'm like, get the fuck. And what happened? And then all of a sudden he went to Africa.
Yeah, that's what I remember happening. But they never really said what happened. Were you threatened? I mean, I don't know how much you want.
I don't have.
You can't.
That's none of my business.
Okay.
But I know for a fact.
He was corrected.
He said, correct.
Yeah.
He was, hey, by whoever it was. Hey, we need to have a conversation. Would you like some of your own coffee in your house? What? Yeah, like that heavy shit. And that's the first time, I would. And so when I saw him come back, there was a lot less communication. And maybe he just, maybe he just grows, whatever. But I can honestly say, and maybe I'm crazy and I am crazy for saying this. When I saw him completely come back, I really questioned if that was him.
Yeah, I know, right?
We need to get his mics attached to a giant sofa.
Yeah, I know.
They look very comfortable.
Big shill mics.
They look very comfortable though.
Yeah. Quite an insight though, that into how Hollywood. I know you've seen certain videos a bit like that before, and it doesn't surprise anybody. But I heard that on Ed from Outer Light's channel. I don't know if you've heard Ed from Outer Light. He's a New Zealand guy. He does some very good videos, Matt. The Outer Light. But I mean, he's not saying anything we didn't sort of think or know, but he's actually saying that as proof.
Well, he's giving first-hand account. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very interesting, especially in the film world, because he was talking about people there who are making who are in making films that we watch, the mind control and charge and news and TV and all the same things. These directors and producers and executives that are in charge of these things are going to these parties. Interesting. But I came across. You want to talk about the Nolans?
Why
yeah,
not?
go on. Yeah.
What I want to talk about them. I thought you meant what do you want me to say?
No. Well, what
have you watched any of? Me and Don were talking about this because he's been doing some research on Christopher Nolan. So there's obviously Jonathan Nolan, his brother, who directed Westworld, wrote Westworld and directed some of it. I'm not sure, produced it or whatever. But have you watched any of the Fallout stuff, Matt? That new show on Amazon.
Is it a series? Oh no, I don't watch.
New one on Amazon. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, I watched a bit of it because it's based on a video game, which is like a post of after an apocalypse video game, where these people are in vaults basically, and they come out through the vaults 200 years after a nuclear, whatever, and and that's basically. So it's a video game. I've played the video game actually; it's really good. But I started watching a bit of the show, and it's produced and written. I'm not sure, and definitely directed by Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother. I mean, Don were talking about it, and then we realised, obviously, he directed Oppenheimer, which was obviously a massive "be terrified of nuclear bomb" rejig last year, biggest film ever. I mean, it was talked about endlessly, wasn't it? Oppenheimer. So, but in my eyes, it was a propaganda film rejigging the old nuclear threat just to scare the shit out of everybody. But what a coincidence, right? That he brought that out last year, and his brother brings out another one which shows a nuclear explosion and everything, and it's telling you the fallout of the nuclear bomb. So you've got two, which I would consider, I don't know what your opinion is, two nuclear propaganda films done by two brothers.
And then listen to this one as a closer. There's the third brother called Matthew Nolan, and he's got a bit of a sordid past as a third Nolan. I think he's the oldest brother actually. He's got a background as like a jewelry thief, but also an assassin. And he was actually indicted or wanted for the murder of someone in Costa Rica. And his assassin's cover name was Oppenheimer. This was in 2004, 20 years before his younger brother made Oppenheimer film, and his other brother's making a nuclear fallout about nuclear weapons. And I've got like court manuscripts saying he called himself Matthew McCall Oppenheimer. Fucking mad or what?
What do you think, Matt?
It's all connected. I mean, they're normalizing a nuclear war. It seems like
going back to the Israel thing, what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it looks like we're like slowly slipping into a world war where there'll be. I mean, have y'all seen the video of the general in the U.S. and he was like, I was pulled into a room after 9/11. They said 5 countries in 5 years, and they listed out all the countries, but they weren't able to take out Iran in 5 years. So that's still on the table. But it's always been like Iran or Iran is the last country on the list.
Oh,
so
Bush's axis of evil as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's all been mapped out. I mean, it's just the entire thing. So we're probably going to witness all this unravel, and Hollywood is like the normalization tool to order out of chaos, right? How could they possibly really get their agenda to unravel, right? How could we're going to reject it? There's no way anybody's going to abide by anything. But if there's literal like war on our ground turf and stuff is actually happening that and like there'll probably be different drafts and all this sort of things, because this is an actual real war. This isn't just some Afghanistan thing.
But the good news in this whole shenanigans is nuclear weapons can't exist how they told us they exist. We've discussed this numerous times on our show.
Nuclear weapons don't exist, but they can still carpet bomb an area.
I mean, they can Dresden everybody, can't they? But they don't exist how they've told us.
Well, if they did exist,
they keep kicking the can down the road. once you've let one off, the thousands of years, you can't survive there. But people live in Hiroshima, and they've set off. How many was it, Fire? Would you remember when I saw
Can't remember
that?
we counted them, didn't we?
It was hundreds and hundreds of nuclear bombs have gone off all over the world, tested. So basically, the whole world should be inhabitable already, but nowhere is. There's no danger zones, is there, because of nuclear waste, except maybe Chernobyl that they keep wagging on about.
Yeah, but them old people live there.
Yeah,
There's loads of people living in
there.
dogs.
And also,
walking
we
around.
don't really know, do we? Really, because we just know what we've been told here. But it's quite clear that it's not 3,000 years before you can go there, like you've been told. I mean, yeah, they can carpet bomb and firebomb like they've done in the past, but the Hiroshima story seems like bollocks to me.
It seems obviously if they've got cities built on those radiation zones, I mean, how does that even make any sense?
Yeah. Especially Japan, it's not a big country, is it? It's not a massive country, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. If you follow their theory, none of it should be inhabitable at all.
And not only that, they haven't just had Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They've had that supposed nuclear power plant leak.
Fukushima.
Fukushima.
Fuck yourself.
So they've had 3.
Right. Yeah.
They've had more nuclear explosions in Japan than anywhere else in the world.
Where are the 3-headed children? Right.
Yeah. Bikini Atoll had a few.
Oh, and by the way, in the Jonathan Nolan TV show, The Fallout, the vault that the main protagonist comes from is Vault 33. Just as a side note.
And also in the World War III that just started, which a lot of people, like, it's PSYOP written all over it. Iran shot 330 drones and missiles at Israel the other day, and that's how it all started. 333. Not one landed. It seemed like a big fireworks show, to be quite frank. I'm not sure what to believe. I know my propaganda that I'm getting spoon-fed over here is probably completely upside down and backwards, but what is real? I mean,
but it wouldn't be a shock, would it? And without trying to scare them, but it wouldn't be a shock if there were a false flag nuclear shenanigans happened. Right. I mean, it's almost inevitable, isn't it? Is it? Or am I being a...
It seems to be. It seems like something is going to end up hitting U.S. soil and get us all drawn into the war. Otherwise, why would we be like, the American public's not going to get drawn into the war as easy? And it's like, it's sad that we have to, be in this place and time. It's like we can't. And you talk about getting upset, right? It's like they're normalizing chemtrails. What do? You got to just keep beating the pavement and trying to wake people up so that there's a rising consciousness. And with the war, it's all like a frequency thing. Like, what can we do? We can do what we can with what we've got, which is like plant the seed of a carrot in your garden. Chris, you got a garden still?
Yeah. I've got loads of garden this year. I remember talking about it last summer. Yeah. I've got loads in the garden, and I've got a sharing allotment with a girl, and I've got that loaded, looking a lot better than last year.
Yeah, great. Yeah, because you learn, right? You learn every time.
He wishes he could be growing red grapes, though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I said to my missus, actually, I said, I really wish I'd have got into growing stuff when I was younger. She goes, yeah, but you won't have any children.
Yeah.
What she meant by that was, if I met her and started going on about growing vegetables, she'd have gone, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But, you know what I'm growing this year? It's amazing. Garlic. I planted it like...
You too.
Really?
Yeah. I planted it in October. I
planted it in October.
Yes. Do you know what? You plant it in October, you're meant to catch a bit of frost, aren't you? So it cracks it open. When do you pick it? Because I've got big sprouts all over my garden. I planted about 30 bulbs all over my garden, hoping I could pick them before I put everything else in there. And
yeah, it's flowered. It has like these big flowers in the top. These
they're working. They look healthy, but they're not flowered or anything.
Yeah, you still got a little bit of time, but you can pull them up. I mean, if you want to plant something else, you can always just pull them up, and there'll be something there that you can eat. But like the big fat bulb will be there once the top flowers. You'll have, and then you can braid it and do all the stuff. But I couldn't believe how little that I know and how much I'm learning just by trying. But the garlic I got at the store. I went to the organic co-op, and I bought garlic, and then I broke them down and planted them in the ground, and now I've got a whole little row of a patch of garlic, and we got frost, it got cold, it doesn't care, it likes to grow.
Yeah, they like the frost to crack open, apparently.
Yeah, and it's like I never thought that things.
Have you harvested yours? Have you picked yours out, Matt?
Oh no, not yet. So it's not quite yet ready. But I think
So
that
if you planted yours in October, when are you talking to pick up?
I was gonna wait for them to flower, or I was thinking. I looked it up recently, and I'm thinking one more month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did look at one and they look healthy, but they haven't. There's not a big bunch of them or anything.
Right. Yeah. I think give it another month or so. The top will become this like flower thing, like out of Horton Hears a Who. Like it'll be cool. I think they get purple actually. Look it up.
Yeah,
They're purple, I think.
I know. And I read one bit of advice: you've got to dry them out, otherwise they rot, don't they? You've got to leave them in the sun for a bit.
Yeah, you got to hang and dry them. Yeah.
One
And
thing I
another
had
Mm,
thing
success with last year was
no blood-sucking parasites for you two.
one thing I had success with last year was yellow courgettes and broccoli. So I've planted loads this year because I love broccoli and I love courgettes. So
Yellow
if
what?
I could just
Squash?
grow those two things, I'd be happy.
Yellow what?
Zucchini, you call it.
Zucchini, yeah, squash,
Yeah.
yeah, summer squash,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, zucchini grow really well over here. I was growing a bunch of them. One thing that I'm really excited about is learning what's native in my area. Like I've been walking past these things my whole life, but I didn't know you can just eat elm tree leaves or horsetail grows
We've lost
wild.
all this stuff. I mean, horsetail's really good for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
All this
dead
stuff is
purple
from
nettle,
dandelions, nettles. I mean,
dead purple nettle all over the place,
Yeah.
and also miner's lettuce. It's all over.
I bought a foraging book. I've not really.
Be careful though; it emits bad stuff to the plant. You've got to be careful, like oxygen.
Just by eating them, destroying everything.
Yeah.
But it's really
But
grounding to know your local environment. I think it's really
Yeah,
important
but
to
Chris
know.
has got well, not his theory, but something he read that whatever grows around you is required by you.
It was something I heard or read somewhere. Yeah. And it's interesting because my garden one year just grew loads of dandelions. I mean, and dandelion teas, supposed to be really good for you.
Yeah.
But you can just eat the blooming things, can't you? They're quite bitter, but you can eat them.
Well, Dom, it's right. The plants know what you need, right? And then some people have there's this book series, Anastasia. You guys know about this lady in Russia, and she's like the Ringing Cedars series, and it's interesting. I've delved into it a little bit, but what she talks about is getting in touch with your garden to the extent where you put the seed in your mouth and then let the saliva and whatnot, the codes kind of soak in, and then you plant that and it'll know what you're deficient in. It'll grow what you need. Also, the garden knows what it needs to like refurbish the soil, like in its symbiotic relationship. It's amazing.
Not
But,
glyphosate, then. You don't need glyphosate.
No glyphosate. Yeah, and that's just absurd as well. Like we've gotten to a point where people want their garden to not have dandelions is the medicine. Glyphosate Roundup is the poison. How much? Do you all know how long it lasts in your garden? Like if you spray your garden with this Roundup, you can't go lay down in it next year. You'll get cancer, right? Your dog will die and stuff. Like how long does it sit there? Like 8 years or something like that?
Something like that. It's got a really long half-life on it, as they found out in Vietnam.
Yeah. And like I was thinking about Vietnam and Agent Orange. There's still people with birth defects from Agent Orange, and it's gruesome. So that was just a military campaign. If there were atom bombs launched over Nagasaki and Hiroshima, we'd see people like that. Like there'd be people impacted just like how still Agent Orange is impacting newborns and with born with no eyes or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that story seems to be not. I mean,
my son's actually in Vietnam at the moment, and he said he's been before, and he said their description of the Vietnam War is something like, I can't remember the translation, but it's something like the Americans' aggression against the Vietnamese people or something. I can't remember what it is exactly, but they've got a totally different viewpoint on it, which was the Americans aggressed and caused the Vietnam War.
Which was true. There's no doubt about it. Really. And before that, it were the French.
Yeah.
And they got booted out, so they had to send the bigger boys in.
As a side note, talk about films again. I'm sure everyone's seen Apocalypse Now. Have you seen the Redux version of it, Matt, where they actually go through the jungle? Because obviously, Apocalypse Now, they're going through and meeting certain people. But the deleted scene in the Redux version is they actually find a French colony, and there's still a French family living there, and they refuse to leave.
Yeah. It's
one of the
awkward,
best
and
bits as well.
I see why they cut that scene out.
Why do you reckon they cut it out?
It's awkward. It's awkward. It's just slow.
It
It's
can't
just
be a
the
French
movie's already really long. Yeah,
a colonial building in the middle of a jungle.
We can't have reality there, can we?
but that is really cool. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And it's wild, the history. Did you know that that Congress never declared war? So it was always just a conflict. There's never really
Well, that was the beginning of never declaring war.
And that's the thing about nuclear weapons.
Right.
Isn't there?
Wow.
If they did exist, they're basically obsoleted war, haven't they? If they were real, there is no war because what's the point of fighting anymore if you can just go and destroy them with one bomb?
They still carried on though, didn't they?
They did, funnily enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Spraying Agent Orange and all sorts of other shite all over the place.
Have you actually seen Oppenheimer, Matt?
No.
The film?
No,
I haven't either.
No, me neither. I don't really want to watch it, to be fair.
No.
Can't be bothered.
Going back to plants, it's strange. In Hunger Games, there was a character in there who she knew about plants, didn't she? Which were food and which were medicine. If I remember, that of the one, what was she called, the actress in Hunger Games?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
the little girl. Yeah. She was able to survive because it's important. It's important stuff. I mean, like, there's such a lack of knowledge that so many people will, if the lights do go out, so many people will be fighting each other for food while, like, right at their feet, there's things that are edible that they don't realize are, because there's this disconnect. I was reading this book, a Native American book, and they used to. So when people say, "Oh, like that's bear medicine," or "Oh, that's deer medicine," like the Western world will say, "Oh, I got my deer medicine today," when they just see a deer. But really, what that meant was they would follow those animals around and be with them in nature. And when the deer would go and eat something, it was like in nature, it was because it knew it would cure its ailment. And so the natives or the indigenous people would learn that, oh, the bear eats this to cure this certain thing. And we learn now from the bear that we can take that to learn to cure the certain thing. Right. And there's like all of these traditions, not as many were, like only a fraction of them got to modern day, but that knowledge is still in nature. Like the animals know and the people know. And then this disconnect is what Klaus Schwab and all that, like disconnected is how we can be controlled. Like if we know that we can survive on our own, that we don't need to be crammed into smart cities, that we don't need to be governed, that we're sovereign without their sovereignty, right? What do you guys think about sovereignty? What does that even mean? Like there's God-given, there's God-given sovereignty, right? But not when you have a boot over your head where you're.
Well, we've obviously handed out. I use the word "we" as in generalizing. We at some point we handed over our sovereignty legally, or whatever you want to call it, in the modern legal way to the powers that be, so they could either trade as stocks on the stock market, probably through his birth certificate, didn't they? But so if you think about it, we've handed over our health jurisdiction, our education jurisdiction, our employment jurisdiction, everything we've handed over to these perpetrators.
So we need to reclaim it.
We need to reclaim it. Need to reclaim our. I mean, the story is, and it's not my strong point but I've looked at it for quite a long period of time. But obviously, the birth certificate is the important part when our parents signed over our incorporation of ourselves to the government.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to get ownership back of. Mm-hmm. Forget the financial part of it, just ownership of that part. Now, that doesn't stop them driving 25 tanks down your road and saying, well, tough shit, so you own your trust. Yeah, we've got 25 tanks, thank you.
Right.
So either way, they could still do that and throw you into the Hunger Games pit if they want to. But I think there's got to be, as Aldous Huxley said, people have got to enjoy the servitude. They've actually got to volunteer for their servitude. As we saw in 2020, people volunteered.
But you can't help thinking that there is going to be some form at some point, some form of split population. Ones
100%.
who are happy to get jibby jabs, ones who aren't, and a slow filter off.
I would say there's going to be a split, Chris, with the people who are woke. They'll be 15-minute city, and the people that aren't woke. And we're all different, by the way. Not all of us are the same as we know. But there will be a split. because Klaus Schwab, they wrote about that. That's where the that you'll own nothing and be happy or enjoy your servitude, as Aldous Huxley said. That's where that came from. That came from a report that somebody wrote for the World Economic Forum, and they wrote part of that story, or part of that. It was like a future, what the future was going to be like, and part of that was I feel sorry for the people that live outside the city. Basically, they're living in medieval times, going back to what Matt was saying and you, Chris, eating daisies and whatever, looking after ourselves. But they were looking at it as though people were backward living outside the city walls. Which that's every dystopian film, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Really, that is that you've got a breakaway that they leave alone because every now and again they need those people, humans, because they've got to have a certain amount of humans left to draw from. I would have thought, as well. I'm not trying to say that as a positive note. I'm just saying that you would have to have a pool left. They wouldn't want to get rid of every single person. That's not good business, is it? You've got rid of the source of everything then.
We're powerful spiritual beings. I believe they got to keep us alive and then manipulate us to get what they want. So that's like the game. If they could just get rid of us all and take over the world on their own, they would have done that by now. But it's like, we're really powerful spiritual beings. Really, we just don't realize it, and we're supposed to be evolving into higher forms of consciousness, and that's all being quelled. But the game is to keep us at bay and controllable. I think a lot of people will either adopt. It's going to be nature versus, machine, and people will either adopt the machine mentality and get the. I mean, I think maybe the mark of the like I saw that Elon Musk's Twitter or X or whatever it is, they now have the ability to transact money like Visa. So it's like that's one step away from having an X on your.
That mark of the beast thing that us lunatics have been talking about for years is getting ever closer.
Hence why it's called X, probably.
Yeah. Nice big
Well,
six.
well, you guys have Whole Foods over there. Whole Foods is a big grocery store, owned by Amazon, and people are telling me now, like you go up, you scan your palm, and now that's like your payment system, right? Well, people go there and try to pay cash, and the cash register scans your body and still takes the credit card chip, and it's like almost impossible to use cash there now because everything's become so digitized. They either want to scan your palm or scan your pockets. They don't want your cash anymore, and slowly they won't even accept it.
Did I see something, Matt? And it said that those Amazon shops, those Amazon grocery shops, were AI run, and then they found out it was like 100 illegal immigrants running it. Or I might have it wrong. I briefly saw this story, and it said they've had to close them because they said they were run by AI and it were super efficient, but it were basically just run by a lot of very poorly paid people.
Yeah,
I don't know if they were in the building or in the walls or wherever the hell they were, but they were doing all the work basically. And then
the powers that be want us to think that AI is super smart and that the machine's already here and that we're excited about it. But all the videos that they show, like remember that Sophia, whatever that robot from Saudi Arabia, she was just like a puppet. Somebody was behind her, steering her around. She wasn't actually like intelligent.
It's quite reassuring, really, because like that Amazon shop, it's just and like the electric car, he's telling you that unless it's on purpose, that these things that they're forcing on us aren't actually functioning or working, which either it's on purpose, which is possible, or it's not quite working as planned.
Well, what a good bully does, it makes you think that they control everything. Yeah, when in reality, the opposite's true, because the flip is that although there's probably like people in the chat and those guys, 5% of the whole world's population that think like we do, as in totally 360 degrees around. Some people, woke up during 2020 and that's what they think of. Some people just hang on to certain things, but I'm on about question everything. Likewise, there's probably only 2% of the elite families. They rely on the NPCs. Mm-hmm. The more of them, the fear is not us. The fear is the NPCs awakening before they've got
how long Fatty, can they say we're going back to the moon and we're going to Mars? In 2 years, in a year, how long can they keep saying that now at this point?
Well, it's a generational thing, isn't it? Because the people that come in, the new people.
The next president's going to do it. No, the next
Yeah,
president's going to
but
do it.
that again, you listen to people, right? One person said to me the other day, still saying, you know, I bet you were one of them kids that looked under the bed if you were scared, you know, or I'm not like that. You did that, Chris. Terrified yourself.
terrified.
But I used to do as well. But because some people are like that, and they're not the NPCs. I don't want to look into it because I don't want to find. I know what I'm going to find. They actually know what they're going to find, so they don't want to look into it. So the excuse is, what difference is it going to make?
Which to me is insanity.
Yes, that is insanity.
Well, they don't want their world to crumble. A lot of people have their entire life riding on believing it all. Oh, I forgot to mention, you know how when they did the chemtrail program, they called it CARE. The
that was good, wasn't it?
acronym was CARE. This is old news. NASA, with a budget of $90 million a day, they have a CARE program already, CARE. This one added an A, it looked like, or something like that. But the CARE program has been ongoing, the charged aerosol release experiment where they spray and make noctilucent clouds, spraying aluminum, barium, strontium. So that's just a kick in the face.
Do you think that's where the NASA budget goes? Well, I mean, with both the same word, is that linking them directly together?
Yeah, I think a lot of the NASA, like when people ask me who's really doing it, I say NASA. They don't like that. They don't like the answer NASA.
I mean, the chances
NASA.
are it is a bunch of satanic Nazis. I mean,
Yeah.
where
it's
else would you look
primarily
than NASA?
Did you hear the
Straight
moon is
answer.
shrinking?
What's that? Sorry.
Did you hear that the moon is shrinking?
No, I didn't.
What, like
yeah.
blue? Yeah,
Yeah, you didn't know? This is real. You should look it up. So they came out, the mainstream media was all over the place, and they said we were gonna go back to the moon. You know, we were gonna go because
the rocket's gonna miss.
Everyone thinks that we weren't gonna go back because
we lost the instructions for a bit.
I
But
love excuses. Every year they come out with different excuses. We're gonna go back in 2 years. It's always in 2 years as well. It's never next year. It's always in 2 years.
I'd like to know the sacked. Where's the list of people are fired? You know, for losing the blueprints and losing
taping over the recordings.
Yeah, taping over the recordings and things like that.
So no, they really say they say that it's causing moonquakes. So the moon is shrinking, and the moonquakes are so unpredictable that we can't go. We don't think it's safe for the astronauts to go land on the moon anymore. But they're gonna do it, and now they gotta, reassess the situation because the moon is shrinking. Look it up. The moon is shrinking.
Right. So they've got to get there before it totally shrinks.
Yeah.
When's it set to vanish? 2030 or 2050?
Yeah, they're just getting the tin foil ready to send a new lunar module.
If anyone still believes in that moon landing, and you look at any footage of that,
Can you remember, Chris, Greta Thunberg's relation? Right, he was called her father. Anyway, he's got her father's surname, and her relation in the 1800s actually came up with global climate warming change, as in CO2 warming the Earth up. Right?
Yeah, I remember.
But he's got craters named after him on the moon.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, well, why wouldn't they do?
Is that where they're going to land?
Yeah. like you say, how many times can they actually wheel the same? We were talking.
Do you know what? One thing I would find interesting if they did go back to the moon, just to watch the spectacle, or Mars would be even better, just to watch.
We've seen the spectacles of India and were it India where that bloody toy, whatever it was that they said that was
even the president didn't look convinced. He was like,
yeah.
do you remember he had that flag?
Like, what was the latest one? Was it the Chinese? Who was it?
There, yeah. They'll keep landing there.
But it's just a cartoon that lands.
They built a car park.
Did you guys ever see that Capricorn one or whatever, the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah,
O.J. Simpson was in it.
And there's a new one coming out too, similar premise.
Right.
About the moon landing being fake.
Yes, I saw an advert for it. It's on Apple, isn't it? It's got Black Widow in it out of Marvel. What's her name? And they're basically saying, that in this TV show, what I got from the trailer, they're saying that they did video some of the moon landing. So they're kind of doing that whole, part of it's, and they've made it into like a comedy that they fake some of the moon landing just in case it didn't go right and just to get the better footage and stuff like that.
Oh, the programming is deep. It's literal mind control when they tell you in your face the truth, but then laugh about it as if it's not true, and then you on this ridicule psychology. Yeah, Go
I was
ahead.
thinking about this the other day. I remember seeing years ago a documentary, and it had Donald Rumsfeld in it, and he was laughing, saying, "We did do some video footage of the moon landing," and I've never been able to find it since. And I remember going,
Mm.
"What?" I think it was on normal TV, like terrestrial TV, and he basically said it and started laughing. You did fake some of it, yeah, of course we did. You're like, what? Yeah. I mean, if you still believe in the moon landing at this point, I'm sorry, but you're off your tits.
It's true. It's true. That's kind of the first like doorway into the rabbit hole. That's not even down the rabbit hole. That's just like witnessing that it exists.
Yeah, that's the door knocker into the rabbit hole.
I watched
Yeah.
a good show on YouTube, Apollo Detectives. I think it's that guy who used to work for Nexus magazine. Two fellas, two or three of them. Apollo Detective. If anyone wants to watch, they're really entertaining. They've been covering it for years, and every detail has been analysed. I mean, who'd have thought? Would they have thought in the 60s that by 2024, when they kept pretending they were going to go back in 2 years, that people will be analysing every single molecule detail of all that bullshit that they churned out?
I think they've had to come out and say that we did film some of it.
Well,
Because,
that's why. Hence
yeah.
why the Apple TV have made that TV show. Because
We've got a company, Apple, that are worth what is it, $2 trillion or whatever they're worth, $2 trillion, and they've been tasked with making a cover up on the cover up on the cover up.
Yeah.
How many layers of cover up is there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Admit a little bit. We've got to admit
I mean, it's similar to somebody saying that it was Lee Harvey Oswald that shot JFK. No matter what happened in that Dealey Plaza, anybody who still thinks it's one person.
We're going back further every time here, aren't we?
Yeah. In fairness, it was JFK though that sort of said we're going to land on the moon by the end of the 60s.
Maybe that's why I shot him.
Maybe. Yeah. Shut the fuck up. But yeah. Okay. Have you got? You want to mention, Matt, before we leave for the evening?
Yeah. That was all great. You guys are great. And back to JFK really quick. Right after he died, everything heated up. Lyndon B. Johnson stepped in, and NASA kind of took over the minds of the people. Right? The people were too dense, and it was too early, and in the call it the evolution of humanity. Like consciousness was not ready to get duped at that level.
In the nicest way, they were very naive and still believing in the system, weren't they?
Yes,
over here we called it believing in
exactly.
king and country, and over there they believed in the freedom of America and all this type of stuff. The American dream.
Right. We had just won World War II and all these sort of things. Like nobody would ever like the idea of that was fabricated. I doubt was not in the consciousness of anybody around in that time. You know, like the minds were not open to that. And I mean, nowadays, if something like that happened in a post lockdown, like people have gone through so much by being locked in their homes for all that time recently. You talk to even the normiest person, and they'll say, "I'll believe in basically anything." Like they're open to the ideas of fabrications of just about anything because things are getting to that extreme. They're getting to that extreme. So it's interesting. It's important to see the timeline of how it happened and how it had to happen that early to get people in this spell. And Hollywood, and Hollywood and NASA have just reinforced to the point where, like, my parents' generation, you could lay it out to them in plain sight. You could literally, like, the founder of NASA could come out and say, actually, we changed our mind, we lied, and here's the proof. They won't believe that it was a lie. They're just set because of the nostalgic programming, and it's part of their identity. It literally is a part of their identity. And the chemtrails, similarly, kids are getting programmed so early where there's a kids books in the library on you can become a geoengineer and save the planet from climate change. It's so early in their life and indoctrination and the cartoons, the video games and everything that they're going to grow up loving them like Donald Duck, you know, and it's up to us to be that voice of reason and show them the way, the children, especially through Frankenskies, through showing them just to look up, point at the skies. If you just get them early looking at the skies and seeing the difference between real and fake clouds, there you've already opened their minds to not being mind controlled and programmed like everyone else.
Pictures of chemtrails. It shows me. Yeah. He sort of
Oh, Matt, did I tell you that story about Dom taking a picture of a chemtrail? So his son brought around his grandson, his brand new born grandson, and his son told me this story, by the way, not dumb. So he brings around his grandson.
It's all lies. It's all lies.
Jacob sees him put his hand in his pocket to get his camera out to take a picture. Thinks he's going to take a picture of his new grandson.
Don't put me, Chris, that's not true to start with, because I never put my phone in my pocket. Ever.
Whatever. All right, you picked a phone up from fucking 300 miles. Anyway, he picked up a camera, and he said he picked up a camera. He thought, I was going to take a picture of his grandson. Aimed at the sky. And, look at them chemtrails.
We've got to keep it real, Chris.
It's a true story. True story
keep it real
from the lips of his son.
You've got to keep these things real. These things are really happening.
Yeah,
you can take a picture of the young
really important.
Anytime.
But also, I was going to say about all these events we were just talking about. They were all ritualistic events, and after each of those events, everything changed. JFK, moon landing, 9/11. You know, the remote. But what it seems like now is these events are happening on a more, instead of every 5, 10 years, 50, 20 years, they're happening just about every other. You know,
it's heating up.
It's a constant event now, isn't it? Everything's on constant. Where we did get a break in events from 9/11.
They're all happening in
2020,
unison, all at the same time.
Yeah,
there's still the dregs of 2020. There's still, you know, I mean, no one even talks about Ukraine anymore. Where's that gone?
The programming has to be constant to keep people in this space of fear. If you walk outside where I'm at right now, very easily you'll see someone walking down the street still with a black mask on. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day with blue sky, white fluffy clouds, but people are still entrenched in fear because the propaganda never stopped. They've never been deprogrammed, and some people are absolutely stuck in it. So it's important for us to be that voice of reason, that shining light, you know, that other side. We live in polarity, we live in duality. So it's important for both sides to have their opportunity, to their time to shine. And it can't just be lies on top of lies. You know, people deserve to see both sides. So please, people, find me, Matt Landman, on Facebook, actual_activists on Instagram, actualactivists.com. Please check out my website, Frankenskies. If you haven't seen it, please share it around and check it out. It's really one of those eye-opening, anyone can learn something from it, but it's one of those eye-opening pivotal pieces where your grandmother will now be looking at the skies differently.
It's brilliant, man. I started to rewatch it again the other week, even before we actually knew we were coming back on here. And I watched it for a while, and I saw it with totally brand new eyes as well.
But it's something you can pick up again and watch again, and not get.
You can give it to your mates who are conspiracy nut jobs like us. It is very, especially with all that old footage at the beginning, because you can't even argue with that, can you?
No, you can't argue with it because it's government footage.
Yeah.
We had a screening in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and I'd watched it a million times, and I was watching it again with a fresh set of eyes, because we're always changing. The world is changing around us. We're changing. I don't eat the same foods I did a couple years ago. Like I'm rapidly changing, and I saw the documentary through a new set of eyes. There was bits of it that I hadn't really witnessed
even
the correct way. With
but Matt, exactly.
With the jet stream being redirected.
I considered myself totally awake and with everything all those years ago, but when I watched it, it surprised me how much different it seemed to me, to be honest with
you. Yeah. I think as well, whatever happened, whatever switch was clicked in 2020, and we spoke about this, and I know you have, Matt, that there a download button hit, and if you could absorb the download, the knowledge I gained for up to 2020 was nothing like what I've gained in the last 4 years. Nothing.
No, it's been intensified. It's a frequency thing, and now that we're at a higher bandwidth, we can absorb and retain more. I think there's like an ascension program. I know this is kind of spiritual, but the baddies, they're trying to stop something, and it's a rise.
Somebody just asked them, are you on Telegram?
That's where it was all.
Matt Landman on Telegram, and then also you can find Matt Landman on your Telegram. Thank you. Oh yeah, yes, I am on Telegram.
Where can you see Frankenskies?
But also, Frankenskies.com. Also, BitChute. Find Matt Landman on there. Rumble. Go to your trusted platform and type in Frankenskies. And if it's not there, go to the next one, like Rumble, Odyssey. It's the movie's there. Maybe not posted by me, but it's everywhere.
I think I put it on Sheepfound on our website as well. It's on there somewhere.
Yep, it's there. It's around, it's available, and it's still getting noticed, and it's gaining momentum. 2017 film, and just recently someone from Rotterdam, Holland, contacted me and wanted to put it on their platform. Now it's in Dutch and it's on
The
their
fact that
platform.
someone on here
So
is saying where do I watch it means they've never seen it. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to share it with lots of other people.
It's being seen more than it ever had before, and it's gaining momentum. It's been seen by about 100 million people and climbing, and I think it's very important. And I hope that people share it and help get it translated
When you were
into
making
your
it, Matt, how
language.
long did it take you to actually make that, put it together?
Well, it was a few years, but it could have been just a couple, but God intervened because geoengineering was about to come out as a normalized thing, and I was not knowing that, and I was like trying to get the movie done and out, but then they came out with new clouds and all this propaganda.
I remember that new
and
cloud.
it was the perfect-
New cloud business.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
There was an American news show, what they say, we've discovered 7 new clouds. Like, what?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like a lunatic.
Yeah, it was 12.
12 new
It was
clouds.
12, and they're all chemtrails, and that's definition taking the piss from there. It's just like,
I think somebody were tuning into what you were doing. I reckon there, but did you realise what you were doing at the time? Because it was the first one really to chemtrail movie like that, weren't it?
no, I didn't know that it was. I mean, of course, I didn't know at all what I was doing. I just thought that it was important, and because nobody knew about it, and I didn't know about it when it was exposed, when I first came to realize, that it existed, I found it very important to bring it to light. I, of course, didn't know that it was going to become this net zero part of the entire agenda. That everyone's now dealing with it. I thought it would always be in the realm of conspiracy, and I didn't think that they would say, "Oh, this is now the solution to global warming."
That's what 2020 allowed them
What
to
a twist
do.
on it.
The brain screwed everyone, so then they could get away with more.
Mhm.
It's quite evident now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just thankful that I was able to get it out there with the help of the universe and God and spirit and everything, that the movie was available for people when they got locked in their homes for a couple years. Like, people were started talking, and so much happened, turmoil in people's hearts and minds and souls, and got them thinking differently and watching that movie and watching other things and taking all these different things into consideration that they never
I
would
think
have before.
something like
So it's important.
9/11, and then I think the controllers knew there is a downside for them, that when they press these buttons, it also triggers an awakening to some people as well.
The race is on, isn't it? It's
The race is on to get this
like
stuff done before
start
the gauge goes up and up. Because, again, whether you were 9/11, whether it was something else that got you going back to JFK, or even the moon landings, 2020 woke a lot of new starts up, and they've re-energized a lot of this stuff. And you get people now who you were talking to 20 years ago, they're saying you were nuts, telling you about things that you were telling them about 20 years ago, which is good. It's annoying sometimes, but it's good because at least they've taken it up now. At least they've taken the baton up.
The darkness, or however you want to look at it, the evil, whatever you want to call it, the darkness, as it shows itself, we realize that there's two sides of that coin, that there's light and dark, and then we get to pick a side. And of course, we're not going to jump on their bandwagon. So it creates this, internal awakening and an about face to see who we really are as spiritual beings, and that makes it beautiful. I think no matter what they do, they're going to put their foot in their mouths.
I've said to Dom recently that you're either there, or you're sitting on the fence. The fence is slowly vanishing, so you've got to pick a side.
True.
Unfortunately,
But yeah,
I love it.
Also, the lies are getting so big now. They're having to conjure up these lies that are so big. They're becoming obvious even to people that stood watching kids playing football, for argument's sake. They're so blatantly stupid. Even people are going, "Really? That's stupid? You're telling me that's truth?"
Well, I think the Palestine-Israeli thing's a big one, isn't it? Because
it is, yeah.
You can't. It's impossible to deny that. It's impossible to deny it, and then also you can't make excuses and go, yeah, but because you can't.
Well, we've been brought up that in World War II, lots of Jewish people got killed, right? Regardless of what the argument is there, and I'm not going to get into nitty-gritty on that one, but you can't then not totally ignore that argument for another group of people that are getting twatted in
this is where
basically fenced off prison.
This is where they've stepped too far, I think, and wherever.
But I don't think they care.
No, I don't.
I think they're whether we call them psychopaths or just different entities, totally, or possessed entities. I mean, Netanyahu,
Satan.
you know, whatever it is, that they don't seem to care because they're now out. What 2020 did for the first time, they outed these people themselves, by the way, into the open. People who were never really made to be in front of cameras, like Fauci or Chris Whitty in this country, and people who were never. They just used to talk every now and again. Now they were out every day. These people have never been in public like that.
It's like a rock had been lifted up and all cockroaches were scurrying.
Yeah, that is what it is. That is what it's like, isn't it? Like that. Okay. We'll wrap up there. Till next time, Matt.
Till next time.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
Matt. Thanks. Right, we'll see everybody later on. We won't be doing this. Will take over from our release this week. I'll release this on audio on Saturday. Although we've got a live chat in Huddersfield on Saturday, me and Chris, with Mark Devlin. Do you know Mark Devlin, Matt? Yeah.
Yeah, I met him in Arizona actually at a
Right.
conference in 2017 or 18. Yeah, great guy.
We're doing a live talk we've organised in Huddersfield up there, and so that's where we come from, Huddersfield. Yeah. Right. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next time, Matt. Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.
I'll be a part of the oceans and sky. When I was young, before my life, I was a part of the oceans and sky.